Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you guys are having a great day. It was so beautiful out yesterday with the sun shining. I hope you're able to get outside and maybe ride your bike or play outside, play like soccer or um, t-ball or something. Just being able to be out in the sunshine was great. I know I spent some time outside with my family too, so it's always fun to be able to get outside and get some fresh air. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about a holiday that is coming up. Does anybody know what holiday we're going to be celebrating in just a few days? Yeah, it's Easter. And that's an exciting time. But since we haven't been together, we haven't been able to do our chapel services and get to learn about Jesus and just all the fun Bible stories that we've learned in chapel. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit today about Easter and why we celebrate Easter. If you remember back at Christmas time, we talked about how fun it is to decorate Christmas trees and to get presents from Santa and give presents to like our family and all the fun things that we do around Christmas time. But do you remember what the real reason was that we celebrate Christmas? Yeah, it's Jesus being born, right? We talked about how he was born in a stable to Mary and Joseph, and that's the whole reason why we celebrate Christmas. Well, there's also a reason why we celebrate Easter. It's so fun to be able to do like Easter egg hunts and maybe have an Easter basket that we find Easter morning and color eggs and visit the Easter bunny and all those fun things. But there's another reason why we celebrate Easter. And I'm going to read you a story today, and it's going to talk about why it is that we celebrate Easter. So this, I'm going to read you a story out of, it's called the Jesus Storybook Bible. And it was written by Sally Lloyd Jones. And it has a whole bunch of stories in it from the Bible. So I'm going to pick up here, and it says, even though it was midday, a dreadful darkness covered the face of the earth. The sun could not shine. The earth trembled and quaked. The great mountains shook. Rocks split in two until it seemed that the whole world would break, that creation itself would tear apart. The full force of the storm of God's fierce anger at sin was coming down on his own son, Jesus, instead of his people. It was the only way that God could destroy sin and not destroy his children whose hearts were filled with sin. Then Jesus shouted out in a loud voice, "It is finished." And it was. He had done it. Jesus had rescued the whole world. "Father," Jesus cried, "I give you my life." And with a great sigh, he let himself die. Strange clouds and shadows filled the sky, purple, orange, black, like a bruise. Jesus' friends gently carried Jesus. They laid him in a tomb carved out of rock. How could Jesus die? What had gone wrong? What did it mean? They didn't know anything more, except they did know their hearts were breaking. "That's the end of Jesus," the leaders said. But just to be sure, they sent strong soldiers to guard the tomb. They hauled a huge stone in front of the door to the tomb so that no one could get in or out. You see this? That's the tomb, and that's a big stone that they rolled over the entrance so nobody could get in or out. And they put Jesus's body in there after he died on the cross. Jesus' friends were so sad. They would never see their best friend again. How could this happen? Wasn't Jesus the rescuer? The king God had promised? It wasn't supposed to end like this. Yes, but whoever said anything about the end? Just before sunrise on the third day, God sent an earthquake and an angel from heaven. When the guards saw the angel, they fell down in fright. The angel rolled the huge stone away, sat on top of it, and waited. At the first glimmer of dawn, Mary and other women headed to the tomb to wash Jesus' body. The early morning sun slanted through the ancient olive trees, drops of dew glittering on leaves and grasses. Little tears were everywhere. The friends walked quietly along the hilly path through the olive groves until they reached the tomb, and immediately noticed something odd. It was wide open. They peered through the opening into the dark tomb. But wait, Jesus' body was gone. See over here, the tomb? The stone was rolled away, so now you can get into the tomb. But the soldiers had put that stone over it so nobody could get in. What do you think happened? How do you think that stone got rolled away? And something else. A shining man was there with clothes made from lightning. Don't be scared, the angel said. But they couldn't help it. They screamed anyway. The angel asked them, "What are you doing here? This is a tomb, and tombs are for dead people." The women couldn't speak. "Jesus isn't dead anymore," he said. "He's alive again." And their hearts leapt. And then the angel laughed with such gladness that they felt for a moment as if they had woken from a nightmare. The other women rushed home, but Mary stayed behind. How could it be true? Jesus was definitely dead. How could he be alive? Just then Mary heard someone else in the garden. Perhaps it's the gardener, she thought. He'll know where Jesus' body is. "I don't know where Jesus is," Mary said urgently. "I can't find him." But it was all right. Jesus knew where she was, and he had found her. Mary, only one person said her name like that. She could hear her heart thumping. She turned around, and she could just make out a figure. She shaded her eyes to see, and thought she was dreaming. But she wasn't dreaming. She was seeing Jesus! Mary fell to the ground. Sudden tears filled her eyes, and great sobs shook her whole body, and all she wanted in that moment was to cling to Jesus and never let him go. "You'll be able to hold on to me later, Mary," Jesus said, "and always be close to me. But now go and tell the others that I'm alive." So there were some leaders that didn't like Jesus, and they plotted to have him killed. And so that's what we saw on our first page, that Jesus died on the cross. But he didn't stay dead, did he? Remember in the story? How many days later was it before he came back to life? Do you remember? Yeah, it was 3. On the third day, Jesus came back to life. And that's why we celebrate Easter. We remember that Jesus died to save all of us, you and me, and moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and everybody in the whole world. Jesus died so that we could be with him and live with him in heaven. So he didn't stay dead, though. He was able to conquer death, and he came back alive 3 days later. So on Easter morning, that's what we celebrate. We celebrate that Jesus is alive. So on Easter morning, when you wake up, you can tell your family, "Guess what? Jesus is alive." And something else that helps me to remember, and my kids remember that Jesus is alive and the tomb is empty, are Easter eggs. In my kids' baskets, whenever we give them Easter baskets, in the eggs that they have, some of them have candy, but usually there's one egg that's empty. Now, how could an empty egg, do you think? How could an empty egg remind us that Jesus is alive? Hmm. Yeah, it's empty like the tomb, like Jesus's tomb was empty on Easter morning. So if you happen to get an Easter egg sometime and there's nothing inside, there's no candy or toy or a note or anything, it's completely empty. You don't have to be sad. You can be happy and say, yeah, this helps me remember that Jesus is alive. And I'm going to send another link to your families about something that you could do with them. It's called making resurrection rolls, and it's something that you can eat. And it's a really cool, kind of like an experiment that you make out of dough. You have some dough and marshmallows and cinnamon and sugar. And it's actually a pretty tasty treat, too. I won't spoil the surprise, but there's something that's really cool that happens to the marshmallow when you bake it in the oven. So you'll have to kind of do that project with an adult. But I will send that link. So if you're interested, maybe you and a family member could make resurrection rolls and tell me. You could text me through Remind and let me know what happened to those marshmallows. Okay? I hope you guys have a great Easter, and I'm hoping that we'll get to see each other again here very soon. But until then, have fun with your families and spend lots of time with them, and we'll see you soon.